believe we're ready. All right, welcome. This is Dr. Clark, the Center for Weight Loss Success. Today on Losing Weight USA, we're going to talk a little bit about fiber. Okay, we all tend to know that fiber is good for you. We should get more fiber. We typically don't get enough fiber. We'll talk about kind of what is the evidence, what does it actually do for us, different types of fiber, kind of how to utilize some of this. All right, welcome to Losing Weight USA, real-time answers to your weight loss questions, some of the latest updates in the weight loss research, a little bit of expert advice. Gives you direct access not only to me, but you should be receiving the health tips and recipes via the membership portal. And I encourage you, get into the membership portal. That's where all the educational materials are, and a whole lot more. We keep adding more things to it. If you have questions during the webinar, just type them into the chat box as we go along. We'll get to them at the end. If you think of things once we're all done, just give us a yell here at Center for Weight Loss Success. The email is success@cfwls.com. Phone number 757-873-1880. All right, so again, we are going to be talking about fiber, okay? A common topic. You hear about it all the time in kind of health discussions. All right, let me flip these slides over. Yeah, you got it. So again, hitting on fiber and the different types of fiber. There are two types of fiber: insoluble fiber and soluble fiber. That kind of makes sense as far as the names go, and we'll talk about what it actually means. And then we'll look at what are the evidence of health benefits of fiber. Is there any evidence for weight loss benefits of fiber? And as usual, we'll throw in a few tips for success as we go on. Again, if you think of things, type them into the chat box. Think things once we're done, just give us a yell here at the office. Now, fiber, we hear about it all the time, and for most people, we don't get enough fiber. So I start out here with the little cartoon. It's the two lions sitting over their kill, and I wonder if we're getting enough fiber. Probably not, but they're okay. And can it actually help the bowel function? Because that's what we hear all the time. Take fiber helps with the bowels. The reality is, yes, it does. And it can help with both loose bowel movements as well as constipation. It kind of keeps things middle of the road. Here we got another little cartoon. People are standing in the soup line, and I hope it's alphabet soup. It's good for the bowels. All right. Again, I probably won't be quitting my day job anytime soon. All right, so kind of what we think, when you think about fiber, what you really need to think about is salad and colorful vegetables. So those are the things that are very high fiber. Basically, fiber comes from plants. Okay, so the fact that it comes from plants, actually all carbohydrate comes from plants. We'll show how is that related. But if you think fiber and healthy eating, think salad, think colorful vegetables. That's the bottom line to this, the simple start of all this thing here. So we hear about soluble and insoluble fiber. And kind of what does that really mean? Well, soluble and insoluble fiber, typically there's usually both in whatever plant we're talking about, but it may have a predominant of one type versus another type. This is kind of similar. We talked recently about fats, and like some fat is higher with saturated fats, and some higher in monounsaturated fats. But most fats also are kind of a mixture of the different types of fats. It's usually not an all or one thing. It's just more of a predominance. Well, you can think of kind of plants that we're eating is that they typically have a predominance of either soluble or insoluble fiber. So some sources in it, like soluble fiber. Soluble fiber can be found in things like oat bran, barley, nuts, seeds, beans, lentils. Fruit typically has a lot of soluble fiber. Insoluble fiber is found in whole wheat, whole grain products. It's got, but again, as well as vegetables, wheat bran. So you notice some of these things, there's overlap. and that's typically a mixture of both soluble and insoluble fiber. Now, I'm going to skip to the weight loss part of this whole thing before we start discussing all the other things about fiber. So with fiber, it's more of a potential that it can help with weight loss. And there are a number of things that have been marketed for weight loss, specifically that are fiber-based. And there was recently, and the name just jumped out of my head, of a prescription medication that actually is basically kind of fiber. It's not truly a fiber, but the whole concept is basically like a fiber, and that fiber tends to hold onto water, which makes it bulkier and slows down digestion. And this medication is kind of a man-made kind of fiber that once you take it, as it breaks down, it absorbs water, swells into the stomach, and so subsequently it acts like it fills your stomach, so you're full, and you typically eat less. So that's the concept of fibers. If we eat plenty of fiber foods or high fiber diet, will that actually keep us full? Where it kind of breaks, the food tends to break down slower than, and subsequently then we're full for a longer period of time. And would that actually help with weight loss? There hasn't been a whole lot of studies that actually shows it works, but in theory it should work. It's just that kind of getting it to work, any individual, can this be another tool? And the answer is yes, it can be another tool. Can help with kind of keeping people full, eating less of other things, because as I tell people all the time, it typically isn't our high fiber foods that that we gain weight from. It's like, no one comes to me and says, I think I'm gaining weight because I'm eating too much romaine lettuce, or I'm eating too much broccoli or cauliflower or kale or Brussels sprouts or asparagus or celery. Those aren't the things that we gain weight with. No, it's like, no. So typically those high fiber foods also they're plant-based. They're typically very healthy. They are usually very nutrient dense, but very low calorie. Nutrients, there's all kinds of good, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients in them, but typically fairly low calories. So you can eat a lot of those things, and those won't be the culprits that are making us gain weight. All right, so fiber overall is kind of somewhat of a misunderstood nutrient. We often have that concept that fiber is important. Okay, we realize, just about everybody realizes, hey, I may not get enough fiber. Okay, but we often don't really understand more than that. Okay, fiber again is found naturally in plants. If it's fiber, it came from a plant, and it's the reason we consider it fiber is because basically it's a non-digestible carbohydrate. Okay? It's a non-digest. So we take in carbohydrate. It's one of our macronutrients. We talk about carbohydrate every webinar. Okay? But fiber is basically a non-digestible carbohydrate. We can't break it down. Now, other animals can. Cows, they can break down, this grass. If we were eating grass, we wouldn't get really any calories from it. Might get a couple. Still, basically it'd be eating fibers, what we're eating. It's non-digestible for us. So fiber is really just considered, it's a simple definition of it, it's the part of a plant, or all the parts of the plant, that we cannot break down in our intestinal tract, and therefore we can't digest, and subsequently they basically pass through us. Okay, so they pass through our system, our digestive system, undigested. Most people tend to get around 15 grams of fiber a day. We should really aim to try to get almost twice that. A good 25 to 30 grams of fiber is what's really recommended. Most of us don't. Not just as much culprit as anybody else. Okay? But still, that's what we should. That's what's recommended. Now we can, again, I mentioned earlier, alluded to earlier, that dietary fiber that we take in from plants that we're eating, it's either soluble or insoluble. And again, most plants contain both. Okay? Both types are very important. in both types can potentially have, more benefits to them. But again, it tends to be a mixture there. So kind of, gee, I'm going to use only soluble or only insoluble fiber. That typically isn't so easy to do, although there are companies out there that will separate it out, so to speak, and you can buy a soluble fiber product or an insoluble fiber product as well. So what does soluble mean? Soluble means just very simply that it dissolves in water. Insoluble, it doesn't dissolve in water. And since it dissolves in water, it actually can absorb a lot of that water. And so a soluble fiber then becomes kind of a viscous gel. And what potentially it can do is slow absorption or slow digestion and absorption of other carbohydrates, and potentially can prevent some absorption of cholesterol things. Okay. Cholesterol that's in food or cholesterol products, whatever. Okay, so it can slowly absorption. And the theory then is it can help keep us healthy, may be able to keep weight down, but it also then kind of it smooths over a lot of digestive issues. Now, this soluble fiber, again, forms this viscous gel. It can be fermented by the bacteria that live in our intestinal tract. And we had the discussion on probiotics and all those kind of things. There are almost 10 trillion bacteria that live inside our intestinal tract. So lots and lots of bacteria down there. And so the soluble fiber can be fermented. And so subsequently, this can cause certain individuals side effects. Gas, bloating, cramps. They may actually get diarrhea from this. So you do have to be careful. And I'll kind of say this a number of times during this presentation, is that with any fiber product, you need to start out with very small doses and kind of work your way up to higher doses. And that may in itself may help prevent getting the side effects, but you won't be miserable if you do start getting a little bit of side effects. Hey, I need to cut that back, or just kind of slow down on that fiber supplement. Again, sources of soluble fiber: oats, dry beans and peas, barley, flaxseed, psyllium, which you can buy psyllium products, carrots, oranges, apples. So again, you find these in some, common fruits, vegetables, plant products. Insoluble fiber, again, the simplified version, insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water. That doesn't mean it doesn't absorb water, it just doesn't actually dissolve in water. So it can absorb water, which then kind of increases bulkiness. So we talk about kind of bulkiness of stool. Okay, it can soften stool, bulkiness. This is what kind of keeps things middle of the road. Okay? So this can certainly aid in constipation. Food sources here, they're more kind of the leafy vegetables, kind of the skin of the fruit, kind of the whole grain product. Seeds have it, nuts have it. There has been discussion in the past of, is insoluble fiber help actually prevent cancer? And when they looked at kind of some of the studies more closely, it's very doubtful that fiber itself prevents cancer. Not that there's not good benefits of fiber and just living healthy. That's our best way of kind of preventing cancer. But does it itself actually prevent cancer? We don't really have good evidence of that. Now, we mentioned kind of insoluble fiber, that comes from plants. Okay, but often we see kind of marketing out there for fiber supplements. Okay? And kind of these are fiber supplements that are produced from the plants. Whoever's manufacturing these, making this product, they're getting a plant. They're kind of removing the fiber side of the whole thing and making a fiber supplement, as opposed to eating the plant, eating the fruit, the vegetables, the salad themselves. Okay. So fiber supplements are then made from the fibers of the plant itself. Okay? A lot of times they may add other things to them that make them that don't, dissolve so much. Okay? And this is prebiotics typically are kind of what the bacteria can live on. When we talk about probiotics with bacteria cells, prebiotics are kind of what the healthy bacteria can live on. Okay? And so it's kind of the food for the healthy bacteria. And a lot of it is fiber. Okay? So it comes in, the fiber supplements come in all kinds of variety of forms. You can get powders, you can get it in kind of an oil base, you can get it in wafers, you can get it in capsules, you can get it in chewable tablets. They're basically all different types of fiber. Again, these fiber supplements can potentially cause side effects, gas, bloating, cramping, make it loose bowel movements, and potentially it can bind with other nutrients. I mentioned that it kind of binds water, or kind of absorbs water, binds the water, kind of gives bulk to the stool, but it can potentially bind other nutrients too. And so you do have to be careful, and it's probably more important with taking medications. Okay? So kind of with medications then, you have to be a little careful. You don't want to take your medication with a fiber supplement. Okay, so it's not really thought to be the fiber supplement itself, probably not as beneficial as the plant base, eating the actual plant itself. And so just one little recommendation is that if you're taking fiber supplements, that's really fine. You probably want to separate from whatever medications, whatever vitamins, minerals you're taking. I wouldn't take them at the same time, because potentially you may not absorb either the medication and some of the vitamins and minerals as well, because the fiber, as it holds onto water, may actually hold on to some of the vitamins and minerals that are not absorbed as well. So it's been thought, and it appears that this is true, is that fiber supplements probably aren't quite as healthy, and that's because a lot of the other nutrients are missing, as eating the fiber-based food, meaning the salad, vegetables, those type of things themselves. Because in the food product itself, the salad, the colorful vegetables, there's all these other phytonutrients in it, all these vitamins, minerals, all these extra things that just come from the plant, okay? As opposed to, hey, we separated out the fiber and we made a supplement out of it. Okay? It's taking one piece of the plant, making it a product. Can it be helpful? Yes, in certain instances, but you ought to be careful taking it with medications, vitamins, and other things that you're trying to get the full absorption of. Okay, so what's the real poop then on fiber? This is kind of how I started off my actual title to this, which you didn't see, is what's the poop with fiber? Okay, so why do we think that fiber is so wonderful? Why do we ever think that? Okay, so from a historical perspective, the original theory back in the early 1960s, as we started eating more and more processed foods, we realized that some of these disease processes were actually increasing rate. And since there were big food companies out there making this processed food, where everyone was afraid to say, well, it's the processed food. Okay. So what they did is they said, well, maybe it's because of the processing food, which takes a lot of the fiber out of it, then subsequently, hey, we lost the benefits of the fiber. And so subsequently, that's where the theory came from. As food was being processed, we noted, hey, some of these, and people were then eating, the population then eating a lot more processed food, is that the thought was, well, maybe the reason these disease process which we see increasing, it may be that it's due to the fiber that is taken out of the processed food. So in the 1970s, then, this kind of fiber hypothesis, that if we just add a whole bunch of fiber in it, kind of processed fiber in it, and fiber supplements, that it would offset the processed food that kind of that was potentially causing problems. We added a bunch of fiber to it, we then fixed those problems. All right, well, that didn't work. Okay. And what they finally started figuring out is, well, hey, it's a lot of these processed foods are very high simple carbohydrates, processed carbohydrates, and that's where the real problem may be. So all the intestinal problems, weight problems, from things from breast cancer, colon cancer, cholesterol problems, all these were skyrocketing then during the 70s and 80s when everyone thought, gee, the fiber is the answer. Okay? That doesn't mean there's not a lot of potential benefit from fiber, but it wasn't necessarily the answer that was going to offset the problems that we see with processed food. Now, between 1994 and 2006, so an extended period of time there, over 12 years, there have been some long-term studies involving, almost a couple 100,000 people, which really revealed no beneficial benefits on either colon problems, breast problems, heart disease, or actual weight loss itself. So the real question then is, gee, is fiber just a hyped up thing that maybe we don't need? So the belief that fiber is an intrinsic part of a healthy diet has never really been proven. But it's kept alive by factors that have had little to do with science. And part of it is kind of, are we offsetting some of the problems from processed food? Okay. Well, probably the real answer there goes back to, as I alluded to earlier, is that it's the fiber foods, not necessarily the fiber supplements, that actually probably are the most important part of a high fiber diet. What if we can't quite get there with the food that we're eating? Adding a supplement, can it be beneficial? Maybe, is the answer, maybe. So when it comes to fiber, then I'm a personal fan of fiber. Okay, it's a personal fan. I encourage people get it from food sources. The salads, the vegetables, that's the best fiber. And it's a mix of kind of soluble and insoluble fiber. So the best fiber comes from real food, leafy greens, colorful vegetables. Don't be too concerned about the kind, unless you're seeking a specific health benefit, or unless you notice, gee, when I eat this particular thing, and that is maybe fairly high fiber base, it doesn't sit well in my stomach. And it could potentially be some of that fiber source, and it may be higher in soluble versus insoluble fiber. So what about then taking fiber supplements? Okay, again, if you're going to do it, which is fine to do, there's not a reason you shouldn't. It may not give you all the benefits of the food because of all the extra phytonutrients in there. But start out with small doses. So gradually then kind of increase over a period of time the amount you utilize. Again, where we're shooting for is that 25, 30 grams of fiber a day. Drink plenty of water with it, because you don't get all the benefits without the water. Because the water, it binds a lot, it holds onto the water. And so you don't want, if you have way too much fiber and no water, literally you can get to bound you up type of thing, because all the fiber is sitting right there. But so drink plenty of water with it. Spread the fiber out a little bit. Don't take a massive dose at any one time. It probably won't sit well. And I do encourage people separate any fiber supplements. Now, it doesn't mean fiber foods, because you get a lot of other nutrition with it. But with fiber supplements, separate medications, and typically I encourage, even vitamins and minerals. Okay, but really kind of medications, it can potentially impact absorption. And just realize that not all of those implied health benefits are actually real. And as we talked about just last week with the marketing on all the labels out there, again, there's not a whole lot of checkup on all those labels. So all those implied health benefits, they may or may not be as real as advertised. All right, one little last cartoon, man getting checked by the doctor as you're eating too much fiber, as he has a plant and a flower growing out the back end. All right, I see one question kind of from Lee. Am I referring to Miralax? Miralax, no, Miralax is not a fiber. No, Miralax is a it's a medication to clean out. It's the same. Miralax is often used in bowel preps for colonoscopy, but it basically gets, and it's an electrolyte combination. It's electrolyte. You mix it with water, and subsequently, then it pulls in more water to the intestinal tract and makes you go. So Miralax is the laxative side of the whole thing. So it's not really a fiber at all. No, I can't really claim. I've looked at, examined a thing of Miralax to see, is there any other added fiber in it? But Miralax, it's a laxative. That's where the name came from. Miracle laxative, Miralax. All right, so but the fiber itself, the best fiber source comes from food, salad, vegetables. And I encourage people that have weight problems and be careful of fruit, but there's a lot of good fiber in fruit as well. Just that also has a lot of sugar, so you got to be careful with that. All right, if you think of other questions, you know where to find us here at Center for Weight Loss Success. Either pick up the phone, send an email, send a text. You can actually stop by the nutritional store. You can stop by and get your body comp done. Log into the membership site. We keep adding more and more of the more and more things in there, from menu recipe ideas. All these webinars are added in there. All behavior modification classes are in there. All the all the videos that go along with the classes, as well as the textbook, are all in there. All right, tune in each Tuesday, 12:15 for the next webinar. Watch your email for the invite and link. And remember, it's your life. Make it a healthy one. Have a good day, everyone. Take care.